Of course, because that is important. So, I am going to share screen, desktop. All right. Who can tell me what federalism is?
Isn't it the principle of or system of government?
Could you explain that a little bit more? Like, what do you mean by?
Like the way certain things are ran.
And how are the things ran in a federal system?
Federalism is a system of government with powers divided by the Constitution between the central government and the regional government. So basically, federalism is basically the Constitution and the Articles of Federation, put in basically trying to be fair game.
Oh, and you're muted. Yeah, you're muted. So Betty was explaining everything, but she was muted, unfortunately, so she's gonna have to repeat herself.
So federalism is a system of government in which power is divided by a constitution for the central and the regional government. So basically, federalism was the goal of the Constitution and the Articles of Confederation, even though they're basically trying to have not one party have all the power, especially the national government.
So another way to say a federal system is that you have one overarching system over a bunch of little regional systems, aka our federal government and then the state governments that work under them. Who can tell me what expressed powers are? Ellie?
So express powers, they're very explicit, they are stated up front, they're not secret or implied, and they're usually very specifically for the federal government or very specifically for the state government.
Yeah, exactly. And what are implied powers then? Does anybody know what implied powers are? Camille knows.
So basically, it doesn't really state it in the Constitution, and it's basically, I think it's just saying that, I don't know really how to explain it, but it's like they should do it, but it's not really like stated in the Constitution.
Yeah, it's because of the way that they worded some sentences and paragraphs, it is implied that they get certain powers because they need these powers to carry out these certain duties.
Mm-hmm.
So what are reserved powers then? Does anybody know?
Wouldn't it be powers assigned to the states?
Mm-hmm. It's powers that are specifically kept for the states and that the federal government can't take away from them.
Okay.
And then what is the full faith and credit clause? What is it? Does anybody know?
No.
Can you look it up in your books?
Okay.
which term are we on?
We're on the full faith and credit clause.
Of the, with the people.
Yeah, this is all in chapter 3 of We the People.
So, is it the what states the duties that the state, it addresses duties that the states within the U.S. have to respect? That's what it says.
Yeah, so another way to say that is that states have to respect legal actions done in other states and give them full faith. So, like, if I got married in California, my marriage would still be valid if I moved to, let's say, Alabama, because I got married in the state of America, and so it's valid. Do you want to see something else, Lily?
Yeah, so like some examples of that could be like maybe there's a warrant out for someone's arrest because of, you know, assault and battery or something like that, and they escape to another state. That other state's responsibility is now to catch that person just as much as the first state's was. And also if there is, say, maybe a sex offender registered in one state, if they move to another state, they're still registered. They still have to respect the communities and let everybody know it's the same. It's the same, basically.
Exactly. Okay, so let us move on to dual federalism. Can somebody define that for me? Raise your hand if you do have somebody. I'll just have that count my indicator.
Okay, so I know it.
Okay. Go ahead, Camille.
Okay, it's the arrangement that the federal and state government have, saying which powers that they have. Like, oh,
sorry, go on.
no, you go.
No, go on, you go.
I don't know what I was gonna say.
It's okay, but as you said, there's a separation between the powers of the state government and the federal government, very clearly defined. And so, what would cooperative federalism be? I know it's not on here, but it kind of goes in with dual federalism.
I don't know that one.
Well, by what they're called, what do you think that it might mean? I'm going to draw a little analogy that helps you kind of understand the difference between cooperative and dual federalism. So let's pretend these things right here that I drew. Can you all see what I'm drawing right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My lovely, lovely drawings here. So we see that there's two colors in each of these. One of them, they're clearly defined. And so, turn on your mic if you want to everyone hear you. So, what kind of federalism do you think this would be?
Full federalism
Why do you think that, Betty?
because of the separation between them.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a layered cake, right? This is the blue raspberry, and this is the strawberry. And then over here, we have a marbled cake. Go on.
Which is the cooperative federalism? Is it cooperative federalism? Yeah.
Yeah. So in this, you're not too sure where the red begins and the blue ends, I guess. And so these powers are cooperating together. Does that make sense to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Is that like where it can fall where like federal and state government, like they're both working in together for like taxes and wars, stuff like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. All right. So, can you turn off your mic? Cool, you just did. All right. What is preemption?
I just saw. It's the principle that allows the national.
So it's the principle that allows the national government to override state or local actions in certain policy areas. In foreign policy, the land to strike first or to prevent an enemy attack. So basically the national government does move without having to consult state or local or stuff like that level.
Yeah. Playing around with that, but I'm gonna turn this to text. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just kind of playing with this system. But yeah, so preemption means that the national government gets to override or not consult. Well, it more so gets to consult with the state. So what do you think might be an example of where a policy area where the national government might not have to consult before taking action?
Well, the one that says war, specifically, like we had that happen one time, where it was when Osama bin Laden got killed. The president had the call, like he didn't consult or anything. Like that's what they were saying. Like it was so it was a controversy because even though whatever they got the terrorists and they killed them, like they were saying, oh, what if our man died? Like call without anybody knowing. Like we just called it without thinking twice. But like at the same time, so that's the call. Like the call, basically the president's call and aspects like that, and we were able to witness that in our life that he made that call.
Yeah. And that goes more into executive order, but we'll talk about that more when we talk about the executive branch in a couple weeks. So yeah. So what is an unfunded mandate?
That would be regulations or conditions for receiving grants that impose costs on state and local governments for which they are not reimbursed by the federal government.
So how would can you say that again, but like more common language rather than definition language, I guess.
Yeah.
Perhaps, you want her to answer?
Emily.
Oh, sorry. So basically an unfunded mandate, it's kind of like maintenance fees almost. Like you can look at it like that. So they have to maintain maybe like the roads or, you know, the sidewalks and stuff. And the federal government's not going to fund that. The state has to fund that from the taxes that they earn from the people.
Yeah.
That sort of a thing.
Or if there is a national program that is being put into place that all states need to comply with, then they would do an unfunded mandate.
AKA tax hikes.
Yep. And so, what is devolution?
Right.
Can I answer the question? Devolution will I kind of like want to say like a downgrade. What I mean by that is because the definition is saying how to remove a program from a level of government by delegating it or passing it down to a lower level of government. So basically a downgrade. Passing one thing to another, so passing something from the national to the state and making it to the state, passing it down to the central. So maybe like a problem, they can possibly pass it down and not make it their problem, kind of.
Yeah, that's true. But what might be the advantages of taking a policy and its enforcement from the national level to the state level?
The state level is more supported by the people. They can get more like central government input rather than from the national government.
And also, it would be more tailored to their needs because a program in Alaska would be completely different than a program in Florida, let's say, because they have different ecological needs and environmental, yeah. Does that make sense to everybody? It's kind of like de-evolving. All right. So, what is a redistributive program? I can't redistributive. I can't speak. Redistributive. You know what? Let's just yes. I can't speak. But so, what is a redistributive program?
Economic policy designed to control the economy through taxing and spending with the goal of benefiting the poor.
That's exactly it. All right. Elizabeth, could you repeat that because some people didn't hear you?
Economic policies designed to control the economy through taxing and spending with the goal of benefiting the poor.
So taking some tax money and giving it to the poor to help. So, okay, let us move on to privileges and immunities. What are those? Emily?
That's when, like, if you move to another state, they can't, like, treat you unequally. They can't make you pay higher taxes because you're not one of them, or they have to let your kids into the schools even though you're not one of them from their state. Like, they can't discriminate against people moving in from another state.
Yeah, exactly.
But also in a way, isn't it kind of like privileges is kind of like, for example, colleges, you get instant tuition rather than someone like moves from one state to another, you don't get instant tuition, but that's also because of the tax payment.
Yeah. And so that's the privilege of being in the state and having paid taxes for so long that your children get to go to a state that you have, a state college that you have been essentially paying for these 18 years of them growing up. Does everybody feel good with the concepts that we've presented here? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, how has federalism changed from the time of the original Constitution to federalism of our current day? Would you say that the powers of the states have grown or diminished from the original Constitution to current day?
Diminished.
Why is that, Camille?
Because basically the states were allowed to do like anything they wanted, pretty much, under the Articles of Confederation. But after that, like the government was like able to like impose taxes and like everything that, you know.
And do you think that during the Great Depression there was also a decrease in the state power? And if so, why? Yes, the Great Depression.
I don't know.
If you read your book,
It should be in the book.
should be.
Yeah, it should be in the book, but which one?
In
The people.
We the People.
We the People? Okay.
Yep.
Hey, so here's a weird question. There's supposed to be a book called The Annual, like on his home website. There's when he shows all the abbreviations and what they stand for. The very first one is A, annual. But does anybody even?
You know what? That's the first time I've ever seen it, and I don't know. And he hasn't assigned it, so you guys don't need to worry about it.
That's good.
But I will look more into. I'll look at the calendar and check and see if it pops up anywhere.
Actually, I'm doing that right now. I'll let you know.
Okay.
Hang on. Yeah.
Like,
For example, he had easy access to it. So like when he told us like to follow along for the federalism notes because it was so important, he put it up. So I think if we have the annual reading, he's gonna put it up.
There's no annual reading. No.
Okay.
It's a scare. I don't know why it's there.
Yeah, it's probably there from like years past and stuff like that, and like something that he used to use, and now it just like got copied over. So
He might have used an old form to fill in the website this year and then forgot something.
exactly.
Because his website kind of looks like it's from like the 2000s, like MySpace age. So.
We the People's from 2013, but yeah. But anyways, let's move on. So, how did whatchamacallit? Yeah, how did the Great Depression affect federalism? And how did it affect state power? There were a lot of federal programs instituted during the Great Depression to fight unemployment.
oh, I remember that.
Now that you say that, Hoovervilles. Did they talk about Hoover Bills?
Yeah, kind of.
I read that last week.
Wasn't it the New Deal?
That's like, yeah.
Okay.
I saw it in here. I know it's somewhere. I'm not crazy. Here's somewhere. I just read it last week.
So I have these guys right into my brain. Yeah, there we go. He made
Oh, you're muted.
He made Hoovervilles. That lost their homes and settled them into camps that were called Hoovervilles after President Hoover. They also made, like, prior knowledge that I know, they made like they would have like the government would help them out by not necessarily everyday feeding them, but they would like place areas to feed people during that time. I don't know.
That is under the Hoover administration, but I'm talking more of the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration when he implemented the New Deal, as Camille mentioned, that came up with government programs to employ people so that they are working and contributing to infrastructure in the country, and then still earning a wage. And so by having these federal programs, what do you think that did to state power? And think about our unfunded mandates.
It gave them more power because since they were funded by them, these programs were funded by the federal government, so they were administrated by the states, and so it gave them more power during the New Deal.
But these were actually unfunded mandates, I'm pretty sure.
They were fighting. Most of the programs he proposed were financed by the federal government.
Okay, never mind.
Not administered by the states.
By
They were funded but administered. They were funded by the federal, financed by the federal, and administered by the state. So it gave the state more power because even though the federal government basically paid for them, which is what they basically do because they worry about taxes, they worry about stuff like that. But basically broader, bigger things, while the state focuses on the people, so the state ran things for their people.
Mm-hmm. And then what happened with new federalism under the Reagan administration during the 80s? Look on page 96. Page 96.
More like page 99. That's the whole title on the second half of page 99, New Federalism and State Control.
You know what? I might be looking at an old edition.
Yeah, you are. Just yellow.
No, I'm looking at an old edition. My bad. So yeah, it's probably not. It's probably 99. My bad.
Oh, okay. I see what New Federalism was.
What page is it? So everybody else can know?
99.
Page 99.
Okay, page 99. So Emily, what's new federalism all about?
Nixon and Reagan tried to give states their power back through grants.
Yeah, and so they were given block grants. Do you know what block grants are?
There's a definition, and I'm not going to read it. I'm going to read it, but I'm not going to read it out loud.
Okay. And you can give us your interpretation of the definition.
Me?
Okay, I'll explain what block grants are.
Okay.
So, Let me just real quick give block grant definition. So block grants are the federal government giving states money for a specific area of policy that they can spend this money on, and they're not told how explicitly they're supposed to spend it. Okay, and so Betty is confused about the timeline. Is anybody else confused by the timeline as well?
I ignore the timelines by and large, so. I mean, you mean like the timelines that are in between chapters?
No, I'm confused on the fact because our questions, a lot of them are based off of like what the stuff he gave us at the state guide. They're really like trying to basically get into our minds is that how did the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution, like the timeline of it, the development of it. Why you in the granting and giving and taking away, and then all the stuff between the government powers, like. I think I catch on and eventually something else happens and I get lost again.
So the thing is that he gives you the Federalist Papers, so you first understand how the federal system was supposed to be developed in the very beginning. This is after the Articles of Confederation. The Federalist Papers are being written in between the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. And so these are arguing that they have a federal system where there's a central government and there are states who have their own powers and are under the central government but aren't completely powerless under the central government. They have their own autonomy and they can do what they want themselves. The states. And then later, as time went on and as the federal government grew to gain more power, and we advanced more technologically, as is stated in the Bryce article, reading number 4, we start to need to have the federal government do kind of unfunded mandates like create highways and to create electrical lines and railroads. So this way, the federal government took away some state power because they said, hey, states, you need to do this so our country can move, advance together. And then after that, a little bit after that, once this infrastructure was built around the country, then the states were kind of like, hey, you know, like we kind of want our power and everything. And there became people who got into the federal government, such as President Reagan and Nixon, that were like, hey, the states need to have more power again. So instead of having these funded mandates that they have to follow, we're going to give them block grants so that they can decide what they want to do in their state and tailor it to their people because they know what their people need much more than the federal government does because they're there with the people. And so, and I'm pretty sure even today we still kind of have that system, but the federal government is getting some more power back with Obamacare and everything. So does that kind of clarify this timeline that we're outlining? Or have I confused you more?
It's a lot to absorb. I might rewatch that whole section of the video a few times and take notes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I keep looking away to do is I'm taking notes.
Yeah, that's a really good idea too. And kind of go over the Bryce article because it's that's article number 4, and that's the one that talks about how the powers and between the state and the federal government are evolving with technological advancements.
Was the article like basically the final jump from like the awkward stage that didn't really have Article School Federation or Constitution and the finally like development of the Constitution?
Yeah. Bryce, what like a good 50 or 60 years after this. The Constitution is signed into life, I guess, very shortly after the Federalist Papers are written, just to give you a fuller timeline. And then your book, where it starts with talking about like the Great Depression and everything, regulated federalism, and then into new federalism, that's the continuation of the timeline. So basically, you're kind of going from the Federalist Papers to the Bryce article to the We the People book when they start talking about, I would say, the New Deal.
If you would have set it up that way to have us read that, it would have made more sense.
Yeah, because I think he thought he would give you the general outline of the chapter first and then give you the more specific readings, but yeah, I feel like that's kind of how the timeline should be put out. So, does that kind of make more sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, the assigned readings that he has for tomorrow, actually, like 2 of them, the really old-fashioned ones.
Mm-hmm.
The first one and the third one, in my opinion, they weren't very to the point. There was a lot of fluff.
Yeah.
Like, you had to go paragraph to paragraph to really understand what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had to do that in a long time. That kicked my butt.
Also, a helpful tip is to go onto Wikipedia and reading the summary, so then you have an idea of what their main point is before you go in and try to dive into the thick rhetoric that they have.
That way you know what to expect, yeah.
Exactly. I would say I kind of picked out a couple of paragraphs that I think would be most useful for you to look at for each of these. So let's go to Federalist 17. Okay, I need to. Oh, that went with that. Okay. Let's erase. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm just marveling at my technology here. So in Federalist 17, I would say look at paragraphs 1, 2, and 4. Because here in the first one, in the first paragraph, he's basically saying, I am confused why, I'm confused why people think that the federal government is going to take away the state's government and state's powers. Because he's like, we do commerce, finance, negotiation, and war. That's so much more exciting than agricultural and like local issues. So why would we want to take over that power? And so that's kind of his point in these first 2 paragraphs, and saying that it's more likely that the state's government would want to take the power from the national government because they're like, oh, those are cool powers and stuff like that, and that actually does the big things because it's war and finance and everything, compared to local trade and everything. So that's those kind of two main points. And then if you move down to the fourth paragraph, he's saying that it's more likely that people are going to be more attached to his state government than he would be to the national government, because he deals with the state government on a daily basis rather than with the national government, who he may only interact with every 4 years during the presidential election. And so a way that an analogy that I like using to kind of explain this is that if there was a dispute going on between your professors and, let's say, the administration, like President Nelson and everything, and let's say Professor Friedman, you would be more inclined to rally around Professor Friedman because you know him and you've been around him, rather than President Nelson, who you just kind of get a couple emails from around the year, you know? So that's kind of whatchamacallit. I think it's Hamilton's argument that it's more likely that the states would get people to rally around them to go and take over the national government, rather than the national government getting people to help them take over the states. And so, I mean, basically he's kind of just reiterating his point, saying it over and over again, using kind of historical examples with Scotland and everything. So,
I don't really understand, because the question was, what lesson does Hamilton draw from the study of history and the ability of local government to defend itself against national powers? I know it has to do with the European, the feudal, I think it was. I don't feel like I don't get that point of history.
So, did anybody else kind of feel like they had a good understanding of that subject?
Better after you picked out the key points, because I was having trouble with that for sure.
Okay. Well, here, let me run through this real quick.
Was it because the European government was weak, therefore they had a really weak center of power? Is it basically like explaining the difference between our government, like basically getting the people out of paranoia? Because you know how they're thinking that.
He's just trying to draw parallels between the way that they're wanting to set up their government and the way that this feudal government was. And when you hear feudal, think of medieval. So this is when there's the king and there's a bunch of lords and knights.
And they have a weak central government, which is the people.
And they have a weak monarch. He has to listen to the lords, basically, because he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm here, I'm in the capital, but you can do whatever you want in your actual areas of land, because I can't go to somebody.
So you have to listen to the capital.
Yeah, well, they did listen to the capital because
Like the king.
they listened to, the peasants listened to the nobles, and the nobles listened to the king, but not the nobles didn't really have to listen to the king when they were on their land.
What I don't understand is how that example.
So the peasant of these think of the nobles as states. And so the peasant would rally around the noble rather than the peasants rallying around the king. So college student example, we are the peasant. Professor Friedman is the noble and President Nelson is the king.
So what it's saying is that we listen to our professor, but our professor doesn't have to listen to the president.
But he
Because it's on his topic. Kind of.
but there's a lot less regulation in this feudal system.
Okay.
Okay, let's move over to. I want to talk about more about 46 than 45 because I feel like it has better points that 45 just kind of reiterate as it says over again. So I would say that in federalist 40, well, actually, wait, this is 45. What? Actually, I meant 45. I apologize. But okay, page 45, don't pay attention really to 46. It has been like informative stuff, but it kind of just indicates what 45 is saying. Okay. So in Federalist 45, I would say
Yeah, give me a minute to get on my side. Sorry.
pay attention mostly to paragraphs 5, 6, and 9. And Emily did a really good job of actually summarizing the point of Federalist 45 in her email, her question/comment. So actually, that brings me to a point. If you don't have an actual question for the before the session, you can also send me a comment on it or reread it. It's not the way that I even had.
That's good.
So just another option for you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat yourself? My internet literally froze as you were talking and it just all the audio froze.
Oh, darn. Okay.
About you.
I was actually talking about you. I was saying that.
I was like, but I don't know if you saw.
Oh, I didn't, because I can only see 4 of you at a time.
Yeah.
There's like 5, and so yeah. But so I was saying that when you guys email me your question before the session, it can also be a comment instead if you don't actually have a question, like you said today and everything. Because I want to see that you're reading the material and you have questions about it, and you kind of you're actually observing it and you're in the material. And I think you described Federalist 45 in a really good manner. You said that the point of it is that the new Constitution is not going to overpower the states, but rather organize and regulate them while still letting them retain power over themselves.
I don't really have any further comment. I don't really have any further comment on that part. That's kind of what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And that was email.
The Constitution is not meant to overpower the states, to rather regulate their power, kind of.
Yeah, and just kind of organize them so that they can work together rather than against each other. And so we're almost out of time, but if you guys kind of want to know more, kind of learn what powers are more state powers and what powers are more federal powers, the game that I have in the federalism content folder, that one's really useful in learning those. and that would help you understand the difference between state and federal powers. Does everybody feel good with the subject of federalism, or do you have any other questions? All right. Okay, well, it is 6:50, so I guess we will close out our session.
Okay. Oh, I have a question.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So about the Google Drive folder that you're talking about, I couldn't find it.
Okay, so I thought I sent you a link to it.
Okay. I can check again.
Okay.
I got it, but I'm confused. That's why I'm looking at my message rather than put it up there. Because I was able to put the notes up there because it was just easy.
Yeah.
I was not like I was trying to put the question up, but it made it as if it was a question for like a test. Like I was like the primary user of it, and like it was like giving me the option of like multiple choice, or do you want to make it like a you know. Writing. I was just like, what the heck? So I was like,
Yeah. Okay.
What, a Google document folder?
Yeah.
Is this something for specific people, or was like everybody should get this?
No, this was for everybody. I sent out an invitation to all of your emails.
The only reason I didn't find it like that, but what you guys can do is go on your email and search her name up. And then that's the only reason, that's like literally the only reason why I found it, because I was looking for your email, so I put your name in, and it popped up, and I had an extra, and I was like, oh, so maybe you guys can do that, because when I never got the message where like I got invited. No, I found it by coincidence.
So
I'm looking right now.
drive.google.com and then like search Drive?
No, I found your invitation through my Yahoo, which is how you sent it. So I found it by coincidence. Like I said, I was looking for you to send you something, and I was like, oh, what the heck? She sent me an email, and I was like, oh, cool, this is our file. It's shared with us.
Yeah, I don't have the invitation either. So am I
Well, did you guys give her? Did you give Emily? Did you give her your Gmail?
I gave my CSUS and I gave her my I think I might have given her my Gmail, but I've been checking my Gmail like crazy today because I'm expecting my stuff to come back that I have lost at home. So.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I just found it on my email.
Cool.
All right. I checked my CSUS. It's not there. I'm checking my Gmail right now one more time. Because I don't know anything about what you're talking about.
So I know it's shared with you guys, so maybe you guys can use also on your Google Drive, look up shared with me, and maybe you can find like that too.
Yeah, because in here I have Camille, I have Elizabeth Gonzalez, I have Beatrice Gutierrez, I have Trainer, I have Elizabeth Martinez. Have you had access to the Drive, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I have, but I don't know how to work it.
Okay, so as far as this goes, I'm gonna share my screen again real quick.
Yeah, I don't have it either.
So,
Okay, it's not on any of my junk mails.
Okay.
I
will.
It's not shared either through Drive.
Okay.
Maybe because she hasn't accepted it yet, so it's like it's just showing shared.
So Emily, what's your Gmail?
Willowfern16.
Sorry, what?
Willow, like the
Tree.
plant,
Yeah.
and then fern,
Okay.
616, and then gmail.com. That's an old email address.
Oh yeah, no, I had to make a professional email address. I don't even worry about it. Okay. And so, Lourdes?
Yeah, mine's Lourdes Palma. LOURDES @gmail. That's that one.
Okay. So I'll resend that to you. And then did you get my email telling how to enroll in the class?
Yeah, I already enrolled.
Okay, so I have a question on that. How are we gonna be enrolled in our actual like class schedule to get, or how are we gonna know that to get a unit?
Oh, is it not on your student center?
No.
Okay.
I have you on my Blackboard, like to be able to go on your page, but I'm not enrolled in it to like actual like the legit system.
Okay, I'll go check in with the lady who does all of our enrollment and everything. I'll figure that out. Okay. And so, okay.
So is that where we're supposed to send the question or the comment every day prior to class?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I'm gonna send this to you two, and so
Yeah.
as far
That's why I emailed you.
okay. So for questions, I would say you can either just email me a question, which we probably do the easiest thing, or you can open up a Word doc and upload the file into this questions folder
Okay.
by right-clicking. And
Okay.
as far as notes, so go to his notes folder, and then go to SI lecture notes. And as you see right here, there's a file in here, and that's what Betty put in to make up for her notes when she missed on the 14th. And what she did, she just right-clicked, and she can upload the file.
Okay.
Okay, so if we write like by pencil or like pen, do we just take a picture of it and then upload it?
Yep.
Okay.
So the notes that I sent you earlier, I wrote them on a Google Doc, and then my Google on my tablet failed. So I just copied it onto a Word document, or I think it was vice versa. My Word failed. So
Okay.
it's a Google document. I just didn't share it. Should I share it so it's officially on here or something? Or
Yeah,
does it matter?
that would be useful because then other people can see other types of note taking and everything and kind of learn from that.
Okay.
Open source information.
My notes are terrible. Nobody can use them but me, I've always been told. But
All right. Well, this office is actually closing in 3 minutes. So, do you guys have any other questions or anything?
No.
Okay, cool. If anything pops up, you can ask me tomorrow.
Okay.
See you. I will see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.